like it's always kind of been that way, but the disparities just made it worse. Inflation just made it worse. Housing just made it worse. Like it's just the gap just seems like it's made it a little bit more like more financially beneficial to hook up. I mean to couple up, not hook up, but you know what I mean. Hey guys, welcome to the second sit down video. My name is Rakia Harris, and by the title, you already know what we're gonna talk about. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this topic. This topic has been something that I've really been thinking about probably for like a year now. But since I have my YouTube channel, I can actually like talk about it. And you know, just kind of do a brief overview and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to talk about this video. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So and if I'm looking down, it's because literally I have my iPad. You know, I gotta have my notes, okay? So that's why you'll see me look down or whatever. But anyway, so the topic that we're discussing is basically talking about how this economy, low key, is kind of like, I don't want to say forcing people, but it's kind of forcing people to kind of couple up, and how it feel like, at least how I feel, you guys know this is my perspective, and how it kind of feels really like, dang, like, you know, it's really kind of making independency just feel so impossible. Like, wow, you know, rent's high, getting a house it's just so many things, inflation, like it's a lot. So you just kind of feel like if you're a single person or a person who's in a relationship but you kind of want to be a little more independent, it's hard in these streets, like, period. So that's kind of what kind of put me into this video. And plus it's Valentine's Day, like, you know, it's all about the love and dove and stuff like that. And I thought this would be kind of a good one because it's kind of like, it's not anti-Valentine's Day type of vibe. It's just more like a singles perspective. It's kind of like talk about the couple stuff. So I thought, you know, hey, why not throw it in here for Valentine's Day month, you know, type of vibe. So let's get into it. So I'm gonna have some facts on the screen on just kind of things when things I've been talking about as well as reading them. So this is just some general facts that I have found, just kind of explaining the income reality when it comes to being a couple versus being single. So according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2021 Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average single person spends about $48,000 annually, of which $17,899 is spent on housing. The average married couple spends about $76,000 annually, of which $24,811 is spent on housing, so which is kind of like split because they're a couple if you do it 50-50, which is about $12,405.50 each. So to me, it makes sense that obviously, you know, as a single person, you are carrying more of a financial person because it's one person. Like, the math is mathing. So that's kind of the reality. And like I said before, with the economy, with things just being so high and stuff like that, you don't really see a lot of like single people or like really kind of, I mean, doing their thing. Now, I can't speak for everybody's experiences, but my personal experience, I don't know a lot of single people that are, you know, renting. I don't know a lot of single people that are owning, or, you know, types of things. Like, the independency is a little bit kind of it's a little bit limited, which I'm not trying to downplay anybody who's in relationships, because pretty much all my friends are in relationships, but I'm just stating the obvious. And I'm not saying that the economy plays a role in it, but it does. Like, it does play a role, and obviously there's different things you have to consider, you know, because it's, you know, but I'm just saying that on this specific topic, I feel like the economy does play a role in why you probably, you know, it feels like there's just so many couples, partners, kind of doing more things financially together because it's just so expensive. So you can just by these little facts, you can see like how, like, just on like the rent and, you know, kind of housing side of things when it comes to economically, how like it's really low-key financially beneficial to be in a couple, to be a partnership, all those types of things. However, I'm just saying, everything has a price, and that's no pun intended. There are negatives when it comes to coupling up, especially when you're in a financial situation. One thing is you're sharing everything, like everything you're sharing. And so I think sometimes like it's, when you come with sharing, it comes with opinions, because even though they're paying 70 and 30, they paying something. Okay, you might be paying 70, your partner might be paying 30, but they have an opinion. Okay, so that's something you have to consider. Another thing that kind of goes more in the marriage line, but can still affect you as a couple, is their debt is your debt. And that is for sure, point blank, period. Like, as a married couple, it's definitely for sure. Like, when you marry somebody, you marry for the debt. Like, that's the truth. But but also, if you're not a married couple, if you're just, boyfriend, girlfriend, if you're not married, your financial status and stability is still based on somebody's debt. Because if a person has a lot of debt, they might not be able to do 50-50. Okay, you might have to do 60-40, 70-20, 70-30, 80-20. Like, those are things that, like, even though, they don't, like, even though you break up with them, move on, but their debt still does affect your lifestyle. Like, that's just common sense, right? However, like I said, still, it's financially beneficial to couple up. Like, I'm just saying, the economy, I'm just saying, like, and I'm not saying, like, it's always kind of been that way, but the disparities just made it worse. Inflation just made it worse. Housing just made it worse. Like, it's just, the gap just seems like it's made it a little bit more, like, more financially beneficial to hook up. To couple up. Not hook up, but you know what I mean. Okay. But overall, my point is that, to me, there's just a lot of financial pressure, especially in the younger generation, Gen Zs, millennials, things like that. It's a lot of financial pressure for one person. And I think that financial pressure of, having a job that's not really making enough to counteract inflation, or, all these different things that just come with being an adult, it just puts so much financial pressure where you kind of, like, in order to kind of survive, it sometimes feels like, well, maybe I am better off, like, getting a roommate, if you want to keep it that basic. But we talk about couples, so you're better off, like, maybe finding someone. And I'm not trying to say, like, there's people out there that are just, like, being with someone because, like, they don't have no money. But I feel like, too, at the end of the day, like, it's survival of the fittest, like, in that and in order for you to survive and to do that, like, you do have to consider, like, okay, like, how am I going to survive, and you might not necessarily be with someone, you might not necessarily be with someone to just, cut things in half. But when it comes to, like, dating, or even getting married, like, the people that you want to have those, like, more long-term partnerships with, you want to make sure they got some good financial literacy, because it's like, it's too expensive in these streets to be dealing with some brokenness. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So there's that. See what else. All right. I'm going to get into my feelings. I'm going to just get into my feelings. So my feelings are just things that I feel. I'm not going to get it. There's no facts behind it. It's just something how I feel. So I feel like, despite all kind of, like, the math and doing the math, for me, I think it's worth it. I think being independent and being self-reliant is so worth maybe having to make those sacrifices and compromises that it takes to live on your own and to kind of, like, be fully independent in that sense. I think it's worth it. I know some people don't, and that's totally your right. But for me, in my feelings, I think it's worth it. Something about having that self-gratification, knowing that you did it on your own. Like, obviously we all need help, but you know what I mean? On your own, like, there's something about, like, that feeling of, like, wow, like, I did this type of feeling. And it doesn't have to just be a financial thing. It could just be anything. It could just be putting up a bookshelf. If you do it by yourself and you're like, I don't need no man, or I don't need no woman, I don't need no person, like, it's just something about that just sometimes just makes you feel good. Like, we all can say that. Another thing I wanted to kind of discuss is that I didn't even get into, like, some of the systematic barriers that are kind of involved when it comes to the economy. And that is so important to understand why, certain people in certain classes and certain races and, things like that might feel like, okay, and it's financially beneficial in a way to couple opportunities. Like I didn't even talk about the systematic barriers. There's gender, there's race, there's accessibility, there's wealth. If just like women, we don't make as much as men, so that we kind of feel more. We might feel more inclined to feel like, okay, well, we might need to, in order to survive. And I'm just making these hypotheticals. We might need to be with somebody because we're not making enough. So that's a systematic barrier. Also, race. It's so crazy. Like the wealth gap in America when it comes to Black America and White America, it's crazy. Like,
hey guys, it's voiceover Kia, and I quickly wanted to give you guys some factual data based on the wealth gap in America. And this quote on the bottom of the screen is from the Federal Reserve of the United States, and it says, "Reality differs considerably from this counterfactual. Looking at the population as a whole, white households hold 86.8% of overall wealth in the country, according to the 2019 SCF, though they account for only 68.1% of the households in the survey. By comparison, Black and Hispanic households hold only 2.9 and 2.8% of wealth, respectively, while accounting for 15.6 and 10.9% of the U.S. population, respectively, reflecting that the wealth is disproportionately skewed."
There's a role in it too. Race plays a huge role, not getting paid enough and all that type of stuff as well. Accessibility, access to education, access to financial literacy, things like if you're first generation, those are things that do play a role in how you navigate this economic space. And finally, wealth. Like if your parents is wealthy and if your parents can give you like a good 50 to 75,000 to help you on a home, that's great. Or just help you in general. Like if you have that wealth cushion, like that's really, really nice. A lot of people can't say that. In order for you to really like be able to increase like your options for homes, you probably do have to go 50 to 75,000. So that's, and not everybody has that. So those are things that I would consider systematic barriers. Another thing I want to discuss is that sometimes it does feel so discouraging as a single person to, I really value my independence, and it is discouraging. It is discouraging to kind of like feel like, man, it's just so expensive. Like I'm only making so much money. Like how am I going to buy my own home? Or how am I going to rent on my own? How am I going to be the sole provider of myself? And it gets discouraging sometimes. You feel like there's just no way out, and you just feel like, well, dang, what am I gonna do? So and one thing too is like, and I don't have a whole bunch of examples of single Black women except for one, which is my cousin who's about 20 years older than me. She is like one person that I could say is a single Black woman that is literally living on her own, like, period. But I don't really have a lot of family like that, and my friends, we're all kind of in the same boat, living at home, trying to get our careers together. We're all kind of around that vibe. And so yeah, sometimes it's nice to have those examples, because you can have all the same ideals, but we need some actions too. So I think sometimes it is discouraging because you just don't hear a lot about it enough. I've only had one friend that has lived on their own, and that's Danny. So Danny, if you're watching this, hey girl, shouting you out. Danny is one of my best friends I've known since college, and she's one person that I know who's lived on her own. And so when I was talking about her job experience, she was one person that I, kind of got a different perspective from, because she actually has done it. So anyway, but besides the point, like I said, I don't have a whole bunch of examples, and sometimes that can be kind of discouraging. However, we're going to end on a positive note. We're going to end on a positive note, because even though sometimes things are hard, I always try to be positive at the end. So, on a positive note, I got a little fact for you, okay? At the end of 2021, the census data showed the overall home ownership rate in the United States at 65.5%. Of those homeowners, 46.6% were married couples, 22.7% were single men, and 30.7% were single women. So to me, I was shook. I was like, okay, women, okay, like look at us. Look at yes, okay, homeownering 8% higher than these men. I mean, I have no offense to the men, but it's hard in these streets for a woman, period. So I was like, that to me, looking that up made me feel so good. It made me feel like it's possible. Being independent, buying on your own, having a loan on your own. Like, girl, it's possible. And I'm looking in the sky because I'm like, it's possible. That is so awesome. So that's another thing that just like, I'm here about it. Another thing I want to do is give a little quote. This quote is from the famous jazz singer Billie Holiday. If you don't know, then I don't know if I can help you on that one. But Billie Holiday was an African American famous jazz singer, and she has this one song that is called "God Bless the Child," and this is just a particular part of the lyric that I wanted to mention. So the quote, the lyric goes, "Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that got his own, that's got his own." The reason why I quote this is because no matter what struggles or self-confidence or anything like that gets to me, I know that no matter what, it's so important to have your own. No one can take that away from you. No one will have the same rights as you have when it comes to your things, and that is so important to have your own stuff, whether you are married, in a relationship, or single. It is so important to have some form of independence because we're human. We make mistakes. We don't agree. Things happen. Life happens. People aren't the same. We're all growing and evolving. So it's so important to have your own. And the reason why I said God bless the child, because it's such an accomplishment to know, and it's such a pat on the back to know, like, hey, it didn't work out, but guess what? I have my own car. I didn't rely on him to get your own car. It don't have to be so necessary house. I'm using home ownership as an example, but it's so important to have your own stuff. Like, you can never like go wrong with being independent. And the thing that I wrote here is independency is valuable no matter what anybody says. And that is an amen and a preach to that, because that's that. Another thing I wanted to kind of just say overall is that learning to be the best version of yourself is also like equates to being a good partner. And that's for the people who are like that one's, I guess, for people that are in relationships, but also for the people that aren't in relationships like me. Like, in order for me to be a good partner and try to be the best partner I can be, I also have to try to be the best version of myself. And the best version of myself is including having my own stuff, doing my own thing, hang around my friends, being who I am. And so that's kind of one thing that kind of popped in my mind. And last but not least, keep dreaming. I always say this, keep dreaming. No matter what, keep dreaming. Like, to me, I feel like I've talked to different people outside my friend group, because my friends know me. They know. I don't have to explain this to them. But even people outside my friend group, when I kind of talk about like my independence, things I want to do on my own and all type of stuff, I'm honestly really surprised how many women in particular, not so much, I don't really have a lot of, like, I have some guy friends, but I don't be talking to guys like that. I don't be talking to guys like that. But anyway, I'm really surprised how many women like admire and are inspired by kind of my thought process. And I guess some men too. Like, I don't talk to a whole bunch of men, so it's hard for me to say. So that's why I'm saying women. But they're really surprised. They're like, wow, like, that's a great way to look at it. Or, yes, you're on the right track. I get so much encouragement, especially from older generational people. People kind of like in my mom's age group, like the baby boomers, are like, yes, Rakia. So to me, you'll be really surprised how many people admire your thought process. So don't be kind of scared of what people think. I know I'd say don't care what people think, but it's kind of hard to not to, like, let's be realistic. But it's nice to have that reassurance, like, hey, like, I am on the right path. Sometimes you need that encouragement. So anyway, that is that. So overall, that was kind of what this video is about. Let me know your thoughts. Like, do you agree with me on certain aspects? Like, do you think the economy is kind of like low-key, kind of feels like it's forcing people to couple up? Or are you like, nah, Rakia, you just being dramatic? Or let me know your thoughts on about the independency thing. Like, would you define your independence? Whether you're single, in a relationship, comment down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. You know, the next sit down discussion. I'm gonna try to do like 2 of these a month. We'll see. But anyway, as the girlies on YouTube be saying, make sure you share, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.